Okay, so this is the last part where we're going to make her do a little turn after her walk. So she's getting up, she's walking, and she's doing a little turn. And that's nice. That's a nice sequence because you've got a motion, you've got a walk, and then another motion. Let's see how we did that last part, the turn. All right, so going over to my motion tab here, you can see that I've got a new animation layer. I'm going to go ahead and delete that so that we can start over from scratch. So the first thing I want to do is I want to stop the motion layer at an advantageous point for a turn. So if she's getting up here and she's walking, taking a few steps, I think I'll take that to about 218. I try to keep things in even numbers, but that'll work out fine. And you can see how she is just beginning to take a step. When the human body pivots, it usually pivots on the toe right here, swinging this leg around. So the next thing I'll do is create an absolute layer. And it creates it right at this point. You'll see that she's not moving. Okay, so at 18, that's perfect. That's where we want it. We're going to go ahead, turning on our auto key, and we are going to have this at 0 or at 100. And we're going to go back 1, and we're going to set it to 0. All right, and we're going to go all the way to 0 and set it to 0. And so here we go, moving it forward. Now 218, that's where we wanted it. We're going to set that at 100, and you'll see that she's walking, 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 and then all of a sudden pauses in a very advantageous place. Okay, so at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to give it just a little bit of a jig jog. Boop, boop. And that way I get my motion, and I'll zoom in so I can really do a good job of it. I'm going to also set this here, so I have my rotation, and now I have a motion as well on my keyframe. And you can see I've got both colors there. Great. All right, from there what I'm going to do is I'm going to put her where I want her to be eventually. And it really only takes about a second to turn. So I'll move this all the way up to 50. And in order to set this toe right here where I want it, I'm also going to, here, turning off my auto key for a second, put a little marker. So I've used teapots before. I think I'll use a little cone this time. So move it to the left. Right here, so we can put it right underneath that toe. We'll go to the front. This is, of course, on my orthographic. So front, there it is, back to perspective. And we'll see that it is right under that toe because that's where I want her to pivot. Okay, auto key on again. And because I didn't want to animate the cone. All right, so to this platform right here, this is the first platform. I'm going to go ahead and rotate that, making sure that I am on local. And I'm going to move it 90 degrees. I've got my snaps on at the moment. Easiest way to know that it's centered over that cone would be to go F for front, toe right over that cone, and of course L for left. There. And so, back to perspective, we should see that it is right underneath that cone, how it was in the beginning. Note her toe is twisted. If you were to be able to see that, not a big deal. All right. So then let's do this. We've got to move this leg over as well, but it's going to move a little bit ahead of the other one. So I'm going to go ahead and put that all the way to about 130. Notice that I am using whole numbers now. This one I don't have to worry about it having the cone. I just want to have it turned at 90 degrees and lining up more or less with that one. It's not as vital that it is exact. Okay, so let's see, by the time we get to 150, those are more or less lining up. Okay, great. All right, so we've got that. We've got the two legs turning, and of course she's all kind of twisted right now. So let's go ahead and we want to get the pelvis moving. So let's put that. That's on view right now. Let's get that to local. All righty, and we'll go F for front right here to see how things are going. All right, maybe L for left. There we go. And we're going to move our slider over to the 150 because that's where we're ending up. The hips are really the last part to get there. So that's at 90. And of course I can move that over. Now I'm going to move the slider back to 140. So the chest is going to move a little bit faster than the hips. So what I'm going to do, here we go, line this up again, is I'm going to go ahead and straighten this chest out a little bit because she's still curved because of how she was walking. And so it's on local. And just line that up and get it more or less over the hip. And so is that where I want it to be? No, I still want to turn it a little bit more so that it is at a 90 degrees to where it was. Okay, you can see it lining up with the grids right here. Okay, great. And so she is now moving her foot first, pivoting on the other foot, and the chest is spinning slightly more than the hips. All right, so now what's going to come even before that is the head. The head needs to know where it's going. I'm going to go ahead and just go to the top for that one. So selecting the head, I'm going to turn that, and I'm going to probably have to turn this back again as the whole thing moves, but let's see. So we've got that, and you can see she is going a little bit too far. So let's do this. At the 150, turn the chest back to where it needs to be, and the head back where it needs to be. Cool. See, so I'd had a keyframe here at the 130 for the head, but then of course at the 150, since the hips had moved, the head had moved more. Let's see how that's looking. And she's swinging her leg, she's swinging her head and her chest, and it's all coming together around that 150 mark. Great. All right, make a slight adjustment on her head so it's not cocked over to the side. Maybe a slight adjustment on her shoulders as well. Perfect. The other thing that would swing a little bit ahead of time would be the arms as she's coming around. So, let's see. Starting from her walk position, she's pretty good. Oh, let's see here. By the time she gets to 30, let's have this arm swinging back. And her other arm swinging forward. And since her arm is bent a little bit funny, I'm going to bend it here. Okay. And you can see that's carrying the motion of her, or the momentum of her body around. Might be a little exaggerated, but who knows. And then by the time we get to the 50, we can put those back sort of where they would want to be. Maybe we'll make some other adjustments too. Let's see here. So by the time she's at her 50, we want this arm to be sort of just back to normal. And maybe back just a little bit. This one's back to normal. Okay. Now it's just a point of making a few minor adjustments just to get her more or less lined up the way that she would be. Okay, the first thing I notice is that her foot is a little bit high, so I think that she would have her foot up right about there. That's fine. And so she has it coming up, and then she's planting it here. So by here, she should have her foot more or less down. So let's bring it down. Orthographic so we can really see it. And she's kind of on her toes still, so by the time she gets to 50, we definitely want her off her toes. So the first thing I'll do is just move the hips down. All right. And let's see, can we just move these down? Yeah, that one. Move down, no problem. What about this one? Is it going to work out for me? Yeah, by putting her hips down first, it allowed me to move those feet. Okay, she's more or less standing flat. All right. Now, is her weight distributed good? It's not too bad. We want to line up her head with her feet right here. She's swayed just a little bit. Oh, could she go maybe back just a little bit? Maybe. And maybe with her chest down a little bit. She's got great posture. There we go. Is that good? Well, that might be about it. I think that maybe we've got this one out just a little bit far now that I see it. So I'm going to go ahead and, since I've only got the keyframe on this one, I'm going to move that in a little bit. And let's see, by the time we get to the 50, not too bad. So I'm going to turn off my auto key now, and I'm going to make her visible again. So selecting her body, Alt-X, and go ahead and double click on her pelvis. That selects all of this. Expand the selected. We're going to turn off all of that, but of course we're going to turn her stuff around her head all on again. We're going to put her back into perspective here in our viewport and save frames. Now let's take a look at our render setup here. We've got the art render on right now. We always just use a Scanlander here in class. We want it HDTV 1280 by 720. Now remember, whenever you are going to do a video file, you have to set up a file. So files, and of course to this PC, and then to the T drive, to art, period 1, or whatever period you're in. This is project 4, and the cat motion. We usually just name it after whatever the folder is. Here I've got one in here already, but I'll go ahead and just replace that. The format is not a JPEG, but an AVI. It's the AVI file. I'm going to go save. Confirm that overwrite. Now, this is important. We are not in the DV video encoder. We are in the JPEG, the MJPEG compressor. We'll just say OK. All right. Now, let's do this. We've got here Shift F for our safe frames. We want to be able to see most of everything that's going on. So let's go back. Here we go. She's getting up. She's doing her little walk. And she's turning pretty naturally. Not bad. Okay, let me just make sure that in my setup, oh, you see I just had a single frame. We'll do just the active segments. I've got 1 through 180 right now. That's fine. And we'll render. All right, so there you have it. We in our folder we could see we've got our video, and we play it. We see we've got a motion, a walk, and another motion. Imagine the possibilities of what you could do with that.